Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Smokevai here for MMOBomb.com, and welcome back to the Free Play Podcast, episode 80. 20 away from the good old 100. We're going to have to do something special for that episode. I don't quite know yet what we should do, but we have our host here, our co-host as usual. It is August 11th, 2013. Jason, Kevin, how you guys doing? Kevin, tell me, besides how you're doing, what would you like to see for the 100th episode? If you're around then, that is, of course.
Well, first of all, I have to recommend everyone that paper always beats Spock, so just always go with paper. Second, 100th episode, I'd really think we should mix it up and not have you host it, maybe. I don't know.
Ooh.
Maybe just completely throw people off their game.
See,
I think he's gunning for your job.
If he suggests that, though, you know what everybody's going to say if I'm not going to host it.
Not gonna be me.
It's going to be, where is Eminem, Magic Man?
Oh.
That's immediately. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to promise anything, but maybe we'll have a fun time in the 100th episode. Do something like me not hosting. I'm not going to promise anyone individually, but that is a good idea, Kevin. I will say that. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, and in fact, I am the co-host on something else with Magic Man, but we won't talk about that now.
No, he lives on in spirit with us always. He lingers around. He's like that ectoplasm that you get on yourself whenever you get too close to ghosts.
He's like, ooh, Magic Man, ooh.
Does that ectoplasm matter get in your mouth?
Sometimes it can be quite gooey. Like that snap, the transition. Jason, what would you suggest for the 100th episode?
I think we should all wear funny hats.
Funny, we should. You know what we should do? Obviously, we're gonna have to do it with our video cameras on. Obviously, our web cameras, not video cameras.
I'd have to like put on pants then or something.
Are you standing up when you're doing this podcast? Like nobody's gonna see your pants. Unless you had to get up and then use the restroom or something. I don't know. There's possibilities, but come on. I think for the 100th episode, you can put on pants, Jason. That's the least we can ask from you, all right?
On 20 weeks, it'll be like the middle of winter, so it should be okay then. Right now, too freaking hot.
Yeah, that's 20 weeks, man. That's at least 16, 24, 4 months? Yeah, no, 5 months. There we go. I am bad with math. There we go. Let's go ahead and then jump into this week's news topic, shall we? All right. I've got something that's pretty interesting to talk about. It's not a MOBA, although there was MOBA news this week, but that's a whole another discussion. But it is an MMO, and it's not fantasy-based. In fact, it's based out of reality, and it's about skiing. And it's called...
Snow.
Ski lifts. No. Snow, yes. Of course, it's called Snow. It sounds like some kind of art piece. You're like, I'm going to go see the snow at the gallery. I don't know. Whatever.
The gallery.
Yeah, the gallery, whatever. Snow.
Go with like MoMA, it makes you sound fancy.
It could be like an independent art film, Snow. In fact, the trailer kind of feels like that. If you actually look at the trailer, it's fairly short. It's in pre-alpha right now, so the footage itself isn't too much, but it's an open-world MMO devoted just to skiing. And it's using the CryEngine 3, which there's not too many MMOs that use CryEngine 3. I think there's maybe a couple. I know, for example, Panzer, that's not quite an MMO, and it certainly isn't open world. So it's kind of impressive that we're getting like an up-to-date sort of current generation MMO devoted to skiing. We don't really have too many free-to-play skiing games, certainly not ones that look as gorgeous as this. Jason, what's your opinion?
Sure, I like it. I like anything that's just a little different, a little off the beaten path of, orcs and elves and dragons and raids and so on. So as long as it, as long as it can feel like an MMO, because I mean, you don't want to. If you think of your typical like ski resort, you wouldn't want to have like 1,000 people all hitting the slopes at once. So you got to wonder how they're going to partition that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether or not because since it's open world, people go explore, find like the best trails and what have you. I would imagine that they kind of drop you off at certain points on the mountain, and then you're just free to go find the best or the coolest way down, right?
Well, it makes me think of a little. I wonder if they'll do something like what is that game? The car game, The Crew.
The Crew. Yeah, explain that. I haven't looked into that too much.
Well, it's by Ubisoft, and it's like a car. It's like a car racing open world MMO. Like the entire United States is the open world, but it's only kind of an MMO. I mean, you're not gonna have everybody just gathered together doing stuff. You pretty much go around in your own instance of the world. There's exploration and so on. And then when you want to do something with someone, like have a takedown mission where you all got to take down like some criminal was trying to flee, then you're your friends can all group up and we can all go after the bad guy or whatever. But it's sort of an MMO in that, yeah, you can get people together to do stuff, but it's not really open world like in a typical, World of Warcraft where everybody's just running around it randomly. And I wonder if that's how this is going to be here. Because like I said, you can't just have 1,000 people running around on the slopes at once. I just think it'd be too crowded, so they got to find some way to divide that up.
Well, you make a good point about having so many people. I wonder, like, ski lifts. How do ski lifts work, right? Like, is everybody gonna wait their turn for a ski lift to come around, or is it gonna be like an instance thing where you click a button, say intro ski lift?
Yeah, it's gonna be like a mount. It's gonna be like getting a mount from one city to the next, probably.
Yeah, and you just fly over, essentially, fly back. But the graphics are gorgeous, and the gameplay in the trailer itself, when you looked at it, I mean, the characters were obviously doing some tricks. And one of the developers, the development company is called Poppermost Productions, which I have to say, Poppermost Productions sounds like a pretty awesome game company name. Poppermost, I don't know that. I like saying that word.
Poppermost.
Production.
Yeah, it is a good name.
Poppermost. But yeah, they said they did actually comment in our comments, and they said that they would be adding snowboarding support. So you're going to get some cool sort of combinations of things you can do. There's other challenges you can do, of course. If you don't just want to free ski, you can do any kind of competition that would normally be available in any kind of, sports game, which is pretty cool. Everybody can kind of go, and I wonder if people will, kind of congregate in certain areas where they're holding competitions and being like, this is the area of this competition. If it was fan-made, that would be pretty awesome. Kevin, have you actually ever been skiing or snowboarding?
I have been snowboarding, and I f***ed up my knee pretty bad snowboarding. It tore the cartilage in my left knee pretty bad.
Really?
Years ago. So it'd be nice to be able to get back out there without having to worry about damaging my knee again.
See, now I have to put a disclaimer on the start of this video, like, may contain some adult language.
Oh, I didn't even realize. Whoops. Sorry.
Just bleep it.
Okay. We're going to do some editing there. All right. So, yeah, I actually have never skied, and I don't believe Jason's ever skied.
I'm from Minnesota, and I've never skied, so, yeah, it's pretty embarrassing. I'm also terrible at ice skating.
My ankles just cannot support that. It's too wobbly. So this is a game for us, then. This is a game for those of us who always have wanted to ski but never could make it out due to financial reasons or just being plain lazy. We can just sit from our couch now.
Yeah, lazy and untalented. Yeah.
We can just sit at our desk and be like the next Shaun White in the game. And be like, I am the best skater in here and whatnot. They just have to add the Olympics. And they have to add... What else? I know me and you, Jason, we chimed in the comments a little bit in the article about what we wanted to see added. I mentioned the biathlon, and then there's of course, the avalanche. Both of those things, come on, it's an open world MMO for skiing. It's got to have Winter Olympics in it.
And skiing away from avalanches.
Let's say, except you can't have the Olympics because they will sue your...
Oh, but they can have like their winter sports or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. If those who don't know what a biathlon is, basically you ski for a while and then you take out a gun and you shoot targets.
And then you ski again and you take out a gun and you shoot targets.
I know it sounds crazy, but that's really what it is.
The Winter Olympics are so much better than the Summer Olympics. It's just like they have like really crazy sports like
curling, man.
Curling, I know. I used to watch curling all the time in high school. Like we would just gather around during the Olympics and watch curling for hours. That was what I did during high school, guys. That was a while ago. I think that was well, it wasn't London Olympics, I'll tell you that much. Alrighty, so that is looking to be quite a delectable game.
Did they give you any indication about when they think it might be launching or beta or anything?
No, not really anything. He only commented a couple times, it looks like, and he never mentioned when it was supposed to launch, other than that they were actually releasing some more information, like some screenshots and videos. It seems fairly early in production, but
sure.
If you look at the screenshots of the game, it's very beautiful. Like, it's pretty impressive, the world that they've already built, and there's a lot of detail in the canyons and what have you. And I'll be really interested to see how they roll out new areas, because I mean, where is this actually located that you can go miles and miles and miles of nothing but terrain that you can go across on skis and go up mountains? How is that resort factor or mechanic going to work in like that, so you can actually navigate this stuff effectively? while it's still feeling like an open world. So stuff like that I have big questions about, and hopefully we can find out more details soon. But I was quite surprised. A lot of people were looking forward to this. They were impressed. And we don't get too many sports MMOs, like I said before. So definitely keep an eye out for Snow if you're looking for something different. So next up we have Marvel Heroes update. They just went into update 1.1. Added Flame On, the Flame Princess. Wait, not Flame Princess. Sorry, wrong show. No.
Is that a My Little Pony reference?
No, it's
an
Adventure
Time
Time reference.
Oh, okay.
No, it's Fantastic Four. They have the Human Torch has been added, of course. And Jason, you actually got a chance to sit down with the developers there and sort of like a round table, kind of discuss the update plans, what they are adding. Can you kind of shed some light on all that?
Well, one of the things they wanted to talk about right off the start was that they were listening. They heard about a lot of the issues that people had, a lot of the things they didn't like. So that was something they sought to address, majorly in this update. They reduced prices on a lot of heroes. Also made it so that you could get heroes. You didn't have to just wait for random drops. You could get what are they called? Eternity Splinters. Mm-hmm. And you can collect those and then use those in game to buy a hero.
If I'm correct, like it's supposed to actually end up being less time to collect the hero that you want, rather than collecting those tokens.
Yeah, I mean, they said about 20 hours for a low tier hero, which if you play a lot, that's maybe a week or so. So getting a hero about once a week or so, that's not bad. Or every 2 weeks if you're one of the more expensive ones. Yeah. So they definitely went into that, and they also talked about some of the different game modes they put in. Including kind of they tongue-in-cheek mentioned, Stranger, all this stuff is happening just outside the Avengers Tower. You can just go out there and stuff is going on. So they definitely made it more accessible, but easier to group up and just get together with people, find your own little area and just do stuff.
Did they talk about anything about like late game, what they're adding? Because obviously everybody wants to know what do you do after max level, and a game like this as well, you're going to be getting there and sort of farming up content for new gear. That's sort of how these kind of games work. What do they have on the sort of slate or plate there for in-game?
They didn't talk much about like specific new content, like new dungeons, raids, whatever. They did say they're adding more difficulty modes, heroic and super heroic. They are working on their PvP, looking to get some more casual and competitive PvP. This stuff is going to go in the next update, which is out around the end of.
That's right. It wasn't this update that they were adding all the extra PvE content. It was the next one.
Yeah. So I mean, they definitely, I think they are a little more geared at the moment for now for getting kind of the early game stuff going, making sure people have a good experience when they first get in.
Interesting. Now, I'm kind of like, I'm looking at the comments right now from the article that you actually wrote up on MMOBomb.com. I highly suggest you guys go check it out if you haven't. It's a good read. The comments are really sort of like polarized, I guess you could say. On one end, you have a lot of the comments saying, "Oh, the game just keeps getting better. It's one of the the better ARPGs out there right now." And then on the other end, you got these guys saying that it sucks. That it's absolutely terrible. Like they don't really a lot of meat in the middle. They're kind of on both sides. From what you've seen, Jason, and I know some of us have played it in the past a little bit. What have your opinions on the game changed? Does it seem like it's improving as a whole? You mentioned the developers seem to really be paying attention, but is it in the right areas, or how did you see anything that you would think of that they should improve or sort of spend some time on?
Yeah, I definitely think that they're making some improvements on it, realizing where they maybe went wrong a little early, and they've got a pretty good solid veteran staff they're working on. Like I mentioned David Brevik, of course, the premier guy on Diablo. In terms of specific things, I mean, I was kind of easy on it in the initial review, which a few people pointed out. So I wasn't looking for like major improvements. I'm not a comic book geek. I wasn't like, and I knew it's a browser-based game. I'm not expecting Unreal Engine 3 or anything.
Well, it's not browser-based.
Or it's
this one is using Unreal Engine 3, which is I think why some people were irritated because they've seen it look better, but the characters themselves when you zoom in.
I was thinking of something else. So yeah, I mean, but on the other hand, I mean, I'm not expecting necessarily like Diablo level kind of graphics. I know they're a smaller studio. They don't necessarily have the resources to make it look.
Well, you could argue it looks better than Path of Exile in some.
Well,
respects.
sure.
But Path of Exile is that gets like a lot of praise in comparison to Marvel Heroes, and but yet people say that Marvel Heroes looks terrible. So it's kind of like, I think it's like that objective, like everybody's kind of looking at it just within its own context and not actually comparing it to what else is available out there.
I think it's because people have more invested in the Marvel universe. Because one of the big things we would hear about was, again, I can't get the hero I want to play. It's going to cost money. It's going to be this random drop. I want to play as Wolverine, but it's going to be a pain in the ass to get him. And the other thing people talked about is how gear didn't change how you looked. If you want to change how you look, you have to buy an outfit. So I think that certainly fed into a lot of the negativity surrounding it.
Kind of poisoned the water, if you would.
Yeah, whereas people didn't go into Path of Exile with those kind of expectations.
Path of Exile had no back lore. It was, a game where your character starting choice didn't really matter in the long run because you could change it anyways. So you could be whatever you could be without having to actually get the other characters or have them and level them up separately as you do in Marvel Heroes. So very good, counterpoints there. I know who is a big Marvel fan, and I'm really surprised that he hasn't chimed in at all about this.
Well, the main reason is because I just haven't played the game, and the real reason I haven't played the game is because I've heard so many people are upset with it. And I mean, I don't know. I've heard things from like lore being changed to just issues with the abilities really fitting characters like classically. So it's hard. I mean, I don't really want to jump in there and just be disappointed just because of my love of superheroes and especially Marvel in general.
See, now that's interesting. You're not really upset because of the game mechanics or how it looks. You're upset because of the choices for like abilities and lore, things that are more, singularly defined by the creators and not like a design decision when it comes to like mechanics and how the game feels or plays. You're just mad that the developers chose to add certain abilities to heroes that may not fit their overall character. So that's an interesting take.
It's not that I'm entirely mad about their choices. I just don't have any knowledge on it because I'm upset about the other stuff. I could be mad about that too. I just haven't gotten that far.
Fair.
Find out if it's going to upset me.
I didn't think about it that way. I just automatically assume. I just found it interesting that you fixated on that first. I guess because you are a fan of the series, and that would be something that if they're trying to rope in people who are a fan, obviously they would want to get that right. We've talked about ARPGs. We've talked about snow skiing MMOs. We're about to talk about something that we've talked about all the time, and that is MOBAs. Now, before you tune us out, please wait. We're not talking just about what new MOBAs are coming out like that. We understand. We hear you guys in the comments. We get flooded with comments about people saying, "Oh my God, not another MOBA." The like that kind of stuff. I spelled it mentally, not the wrong way, so I don't have to bleep that. So it's DAFUQ.
Oh, of course.
That's how I said it. I said FUQED.
Really?
Yeah. How I said it. My knee up.
Yes. So
this is already adult. Maybe we should talk about that MMO we were talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
That'll be like the sort of prize at the end of the.
It'll be the climax.
Yeah.
Oh. We went there.
It's fitting though. It's totally fitting once you actually know what it's talking about. So yeah, there's two MOBAs announced this week, right? Dead Island MOBA, Epidemic is what it's called. Dead Island Epidemic. It's not Dead Island MOBA Epidemic. It's Dead Island Epidemic. And then you have Strife, which is from S2 Games. Now, Dead Island, this is the third game in the series. It is supposedly a 3v3, meaning 3 teams fighting each other. They didn't really say how many players in each team, but 3 teams fighting each other simultaneously while also dealing with zombies. They're calling it a Zumba, which is even a more ridiculous name than a MOBA. A Zuba, rather.
I didn't hear that. Yeah. I'm just hearing that for the first time now, and I'm laughing.
Yeah, they're calling it a Zuba.
Aren't those pants with the stripes on them?
No, they're not calling it a Zuba. Sorry, they're calling it a Zumba.
Zumba.
So
isn't that the little robot that sweeps your carpet? No, it's a Roomba.
That's a Roomba. I have one of those. A Zumba is like a dead version of that. It's an undead.
It shambles around and makes your carpet dirty.
It just spits up dirt on your carpet.
Undead robot vacuum. There's the title.
The Zumba. Oh my God. So yeah, the Zumba, which they basically took MOBA and then turned it around and put zombie in the front. It's zombie online multiplayer battle arena. And then the other one, Strife, is from S2 Games, which have made Heroes of Newerth. They're not abandoning Heroes of Newerth, but they are competing with themselves with another MOBA. This one seemingly a little bit more towards League of Legends, at least in the art style and general direction. Still a tri-lane map set up. You'll have pets or companions that will accompany you in-game that can be leveled up to give you new passives. They evolve. It wasn't clear whether or not they evolve in the match or outside of the match, so it's passively gained over time as you play. And the big thing for them is that they wanted to distill the toxic communities from MOBA. So they're building in a lot of tools, a karma system, so you can upvote or downvote people who are acting like dicks or really nice. And if you're really nice and you collaborate and you have a high karma score, you'll get rewards. So just to try to encourage that sort of behavior. We've seen similar systems in Dota 2 and League of Legends through their tribunal systems and just their voting commending systems in Dota. So it'll be interesting to see how much further S2 Games takes this in trying to expunge a toxic community. I kind of feel like they're just taking cues from League of Legends in a lot of areas because Riot's doing a lot of research in this area. And so a lot of this trail has been blazed a bit ahead of time. But overall, this just represents 2 extra MOBAs for people to get upset about. Regardless of whether or not they're good, whether or not their mechanics are interesting, or whether or not they're just repetitive in nature, people will always, or have recently been always upset about new MOBAs coming out. And it got us thinking, why are you guys so upset? We understand that MOBAs are something that takes a long time to get into. And there's a lot of commitment into understanding, and it may not end up being a good MOBA, but the same could be said about MMOs. So I'm going to open up the discussion to Kevin and Jason, and to why you guys think there's such this divide. I mean, people hate on MMOs all the time, but they actually do give new MMOs a try and, say that they enjoy them. And it's much more of an open discussion on whether or not an MMO is good or bad versus the fact that it's an MMO.
I'm gonna go with. Realistically, I feel like the biggest reasons why MMOs have this negative connotivity, and MMOs don't. Sorry, I said MOBAs have the negative connotivity, is the whole fact that with a toxic environment in MOBAs and stuff, you're having a smaller number of people shoved into this little competition. So you have to deal with these 4 teammates, and they can cost you a game or whatever it is. It's 2 people, and then you lose because of other people, and that's upsetting. Whatever. In a MMO, half the time you lose because you lost. You weren't as good as other people. I mean, rating has its own issues, but realistically, I think with some people getting really competitive, that maybe the environment is a little more hostile for an individual in a MOBA than it would be in an MMO. On that side of it. That being said, it's not a whole lot different from when we had all the first-person shooters come on and everyone was just tired of that. So I think it's kind of the same thing, where it's just bad people around you can make you hate the games and the style of games a little bit, just make you rage. The other side of it, I feel is MMOs, at least there's a hope that they'll be so much different. So the one complaint I always see show up when we talk about a new MOBA is, well, if it's something different, I wouldn't mind if it was something different. I mean, that's their biggest claim, is something different, something new. And recently with EQ Next showing up and offering, this voxel idea and this world that we're all really excited about, they brought something new to the table, and everyone really wants to see where that's going. And we tend to see that more in MMOs recently than in MOBAs. MOBAs, because of what they are and what they require to fit the genre, are a little more strict about what they need to bring to the table, and it's less room, I think, to venture out.
Jason?
I think it's less about actually playing the games, because a lot of people who are on a thread saying, "Oh God, another MOBA," or maybe they're playing a little bit, they're playing League or they're playing Dota or something, but it's not like they're thinking, "Oh, this is another game I have to play, and I'm going to find assholes in there, and we're all going to hate each other, and it's going to be terrible like that." I think it is just the general overload. It makes me think a little of reality TV when that became a big thing, and then every other show being premiered was a reality TV show, the Eat the Bug show, or the Family Jumping Through the Holes show, or whatever. Some sort of crazy crap like that, and people just get tired of seeing that same thing over and over. It's like we realized that someone had a good idea. Making the first, basically Survivor was sort of the first reality show that hit it big. that was a good idea, and everything that comes after that is just some really cheap knockoff. That's how it seems. And maybe not everything, but like 90% of them. And I think that's the same idea we have with MOBAs. Like, there's a really popular MOBA out there, League of Legends, and of everything else that comes out, about 10% of them might be decent, and the rest are, as we talked about it, throwing at the gaming dartboard and seeing zombie and MOBA and putting it together into a game.
Yeah. So my question, you mentioned, reality TV. Reality TV could a lot of times be seen as like a long-term fad. Like, we don't expect reality TV to be the main type of TV 20 years. At least I hope not, right? I hope we would move on to something else. That's what I'm hoping for, but it's been around for quite a while now. Well, I don't know. Well, that's a whole nother discussion. That may be a bad example. But is the MOBA genre, though, something that can sustain itself? The MMO genre has sustained itself for a couple decades, essentially.
Well, the thing is, and it's funny to think of. If you think about it, really, MMOs really don't often fold. They don't often go under. For all the good or bad or crappy or overhyped MMOs we've had for the past few years, they really rarely just disappear. I mean, you look at everything that's come out in the last few years that was, super hyped, and maybe stumbled out the gate, and they're still around. SWTOR is going to be around for a while still. You look at games like Age of Conan and Warhammer; those were like the big hyped things a few years ago, and then they kind of bombed, but they're still around. MOBAs are probably going to be like that too. Even a bad one is going to stick around. It's going to have its few fans, and so as long as there's still that potential out there to at least make something out of it, I think we're gonna keep seeing quite a few of them for a while. Especially as long as League of Legends proves to be something huge, and Dota as well. Same thing. If World of Warcraft crashed and burned tomorrow and totally went out of business, that would probably mean there'd be fewer companies wanting to go after that MMO money.
True, very true. I myself, I think it's going to take a really big shakeup in the genre for me to really migrate over to like a new MOBA rather. I do agree that like I don't think I'm tired of the genre, like the idea of the genre. I am tired of the implementations of the genre. And Kevin, you got a good point with EQ Next, is that it was something new that was like a fresh direction, even if it doesn't play off exactly how they promise it. It is a good idea, and the fact that they're pursuing that is a step in the right direction. With MOBAs, everything seems to just fall within the same vein. No real huge innovations. It still feels very much like a MOBA at the end of the day.
It's like for several years after WoW came out, just about everything was some level of a WoW clone. Only in the last 2 or 3 years maybe have we been starting to see anything actually different.
Yeah, it may just be sort of like what the birth of a popular genre does. I mean, I'm not saying that World of Warcraft made MMOs popular, but it certainly mainstreamed MMOs. And with mainstreaming comes a lot of cheap knockoffs, or even just not knockoffs, but a lot of inspired work. It would be too easy and too mean of us to say that Dead Island, Epidemic, or Strife were just cheap knockoffs of League of Legends. Like, these are things that developers put quite a lot of time into. These are AAA, studios in terms of the type of quality that they can produce or that have produced in the past. So certainly not everything is just, him and Holland and, shipping something out the door. But in terms of game mechanics, that's a whole different thing. Well, I guess out of the two of these that are coming out, Dead Island Epidemic is the one that sort of makes me interested, because it was fun hacking off limbs in Dead Island, even though the game was sort of borked. I'm just really, I'm gonna need innovation, and I'm just hoping that this MOBA phase thing doesn't last for more than another 2 or 3 years. I'm kind of hoping that 2013 just ends up being the main year for MOBAs, and then everything after that sort of quiets down.
Yeah, I really feel it will end up like the shooter series as we had, where they just go nuts with them for a year, and then it kind of settles in. And there's still first-person shooters and shooters coming out. There's still going to be MOBAs coming out, but let's hope that it's just not like 7 a week for the rest of eternity, because it's just going to kill the genre from the inside out.
what I think about when I think about like what the gaming industry right now is doing with MOBAs is like what a kid does with all of their Halloween candy they get the night they get back from like Halloween. They just see this big bowl of potential, what they can eat, what they can get out of it, right? And in this case, it's MOBAs, and they're just shoving it down their faces, right? They're just packing this stuff down their throats, getting it down, wanting to make as many MOBAs, or in this case, eat as much candy as possible. And eventually, their stomachs are going to get full, and they're going to realize, we can't do this anymore. This isn't sustainable. We're going to burn ourselves out, or in this case, burn the community out.
And just get sick of it.
Yeah, exactly. Get sick of it. Jason, what were you saying?
And vomit up all the candy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just go opposite direction.
No, yeah, I think that's a very incredibly apt description of what we're at right now. The gaming industry really has become Halloween kids with their giant sacks of candy. How much can they eat? How fast can they eat it?
Right now we have one cheek that is like we're a little bit more than halfway through the year, right? So we have one cheek that's completely full of MOBA candy. And then the other cheek, we're starting to pack the other cheek now. So we're about to reach the point of chipmunk cheeks. And at that point, it's just going to... And we're going to get into 2014 and not see a new MOBA for half a year.
So my question now comes up is, in 2014, what's the game of the year? Like,
see, now you're just
will
spoiling
it finally be
stuff.
MMOs?
I had this whole like weekly question set up about that, and you're just spoiling it. Absolutely.
Really? Oh.
No. We will definitely talk about that. I think, and this is something I guess we'll ask later on to the fans, but I think it's going to be RTSs. That's my hunch. What do you think it'll be?
I'm hoping not MOBAs, but maybe ARPGs.
We had a lot of ARPGs this last year, though. We had what was that one from the guy that made Alice Returns? Alice McGee. He made Akiniero. That was an ARPG. We had a Path of Exile, Marvel Heroes. I think there were a couple other ones too that I can't think of off the top of my head, sort of like lower key ones. But there were certainly at least 2 or 3 ARPGs. We may see more next year, but my hunch is either on more voxel-based stuff, because I'm sure people like development companies are chomping at the bit to look into doing, Minecraft-style voxel-based MMO sandbox. It's either going to be sandbox MMOs to me, or it's going to be RTSs. That's my guess.
What about, I don't know what kind of game you call it, but it's like XCOM, which has a kind of
like a turn-based strategy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I hope so, because that's what I'm developing, so I hope that's the genre that actually takes off. Please, dear God, let that be the genre that gets really popular so that I actually get a lot of thing. Speaking of which, by the end of the year, MMOBomb is going to get a little bit of a taste of that, so stay tuned for that, guys.
Cool. I could totally trash in my review.
You could. Oh man, it's going to be such an early build though. You got to realize that. Like,
nope.
It's pre-alpha. It's clearly finished if it's pre-alpha.
No mercy.
Obviously, if we have any screenshots, that means the game is 2 weeks away from release.
Yes,
obviously,
exactly.
That's exactly how it is. But all right.
On that note, there's a certain little MMO that apparently is 2 weeks away from release.
What is that?
That one we looked up.
Oh yeah, Jason. What MMO are you playing in your free time? Apparently.
I don't believe. I think it might still be in beta.
Oh really? It's in beta. What's it called?
It's called Venus Rising.
What did it used to be called?
Orgia Romanus.
I don't know which name is worse. I honestly do not know.
You got to go to the site and look at the trailer. By the time this is up, maybe it'll already be on MMOBomb, but the trailer is full of something.
I gotta make a funny post about this. Like, this is gonna be something I gotta do tomorrow. It's so bad it's good. I don't think I can actually embed the player though. It's not through like YouTube.
It's just bad. It's just flat.
There's a Kickstarter for this?
Well, it's not a Kickstarter. It's an invested in. It's probably like the crappy Kickstarter.
There's a concept image, guys, on the website that has Poseidon doing some naughty things with a woman in the water.
But anyway, the campaign or whatever, they're trying to raise $5,000.
Really? Is that all they want?
That's apparently all they need.
Wow, they've got a. I like their like I like their bulletin points at the end of the trailer because they're like, these are obviously
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
I gotta ruin the one. I gotta ruin the one where he goes, socialize like an adult. Socialize like an adult. Not like children. You can socialize an adult in this game, which basically means taking your clothes off and making out with people. That's what like half of this trailer was. It's not ruined.
Yeah.
It's not ruined.
It might still be better than Gods and Heroes, though, in terms of Roman-based MMOs.
Maybe. So this is in beta, right? So yeah, check it out, guys.
I don't know
Clearly,
if
game of the
it's probably
year.
more like an alpha, but...
Game of the year 2014. I'm calling it now. It writes every 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy. Game of the year.
Not so much.
Nothing?
I'm just gonna sit here and shake my head. I'm shaking my head right now.
Absolute. I wasn't even the one that suggested this to talk about. We're not even going to go down the route of those kind of jokes. Come on.
I will never suggest anything else again.
Damage done.
All right, so let's move on here. I'm just saying that's the target audience. That is the. Come on, it's the internet. Ugh. You guys.
Is this going to turn out to like that one game where we ask the developers who the target audience and they just give us stats based on made-up things about who plays the game?
The Scarlet Blade, and we're like, who's this game targeted for? And they're like, this is targeted. Our stats show that 96% are males and then 4% are females. I'm like, that's not who it's targeted, though. All right, so weekly bombs then. I'll go ahead and get this one kicked off so we can move away from talking about adult MMOs and 13-year-old boys. I'm going to give it the bomb to the Kickstarter for War Machine. For those of you who don't know, War Machine is actually a turn-based strategy game. Not, unfortunately, free to play, but it is based off of a tabletop that me and Kevin actually play. Well, Kevin used to play and now is about to play again. And it's a pretty cool little tactical game that Kickstarter just ended. They were well above their goal of, I think, $500,000. And I only actually pledged once I knew we were so close to getting the stretch goal, which gave me my faction that I play, which is called Retribution of Syra. Really big fans of them. They're basically mad elves with giant white robots. So, I mean, what is a steampunk robots, mind you. So what is not to like? So that's going to be my dead bomb. Really looking forward to when that game comes out. Going to maybe have to play some of my side channel against Kevin during the beta. So stay tuned for that. Now, Jason, what is your weekly bomb?
I'm going to give a dub bomb to gamers in general for their response, I think, to EverQuest Next. And I talked about this a little bit last week. It was only based on just a few people I'd seen, but now over this last week or so, I'm still getting the general vibe of people saying, hey, this looks really good, but I want to see more. I want to know more about it before I, devote my soul to it. It's not like... And this is, I think, part of what we're talking about with like MOBAs and so on. It's like people are just more guarded these days after being through one bad MMO release after another. And it's just great to see that people really are embracing EverQuest Next, but not giving it a free pass at this point until they find out more about the specifics and how they're going to execute all this crazy stuff they're talking about.
For the most part, people have been acting very sort of level-headed.
What the heck, gamers? Why are you level-headed all of a sudden?
I know. No one's actually like being like, "Oh my God, WoW killer."
Yeah, there you go.
No one's actually saying that. So
which probably means that it will be the WoW killer because nobody expects it.
Yeah, right. It's gonna be this thing like, it's gonna happen, or like, it's gonna come out, whatever. WoW will still be number one. Then all of a sudden, it just like starts building steam out of nowhere. Kevin, my man, Kevin.
I'm going to give it the bomb to this year's International for Dota 2. Got to watch a little bit before we did this, and saw some steamroll games going both ways in the finals, but saw some really amazing gameplay, just stunning. It was just really impressive, and I just love that we get to see this for a game that's barely reached, release date officially, that there's just such a strong community, and people get so excited about this game, and that there's the free streaming and all this. It just was a blast to watch.
I think what was really awesome is that me and you, Kevin, we got together, we watched some of the games together today, and it was amazing because we had our laptop hooked up to the TV, had it broadcast on the big screen, and I was like, it's like watching a sports game. We had commentators, we had play-by-play, a good direction of the camera, like you were saying, all that stuff. And it kind of felt like an event that our generation could totally get together on weekends and watch these tournaments. This is our football, this is our sports.
So maybe this whole League of Legends getting a real sport thing isn't that far off. Like, it's really kind of hitting home. If you think about it, it's like, we really do enjoy watching this. It is a big deal for us.
Yeah, it's just as exciting, I think, as like real sports in the sense that you can see some very well played things, especially if you're fans of it. If you played those kind of games, it doesn't even have to be a MOBA, just in games in general. And to see people pull off things that you didn't even think were possible, that you have never done yourself, it just makes it for a very exciting experience. So great bombs all around. We had just really good A bomb or double bombs. Not really any A bombs. Why don't we go ahead and check out what the member bomb status is? What people are liking, what they're not liking. We've got Hunter XK5. I guess he's like a Terminator or something. He goes after John Connor in the new world after he's already grown up or something. That's what it reminds me of. Like a hunter killer unit, whatever.
That reminds me of Dune.
Dune?
The hunter-seeker robots. The ones
Oh, yes, okay. Dune. Yes, of course. So why don't, Kevin, if this reminds you of Doom, why don't you go ahead and just take this then?
Cool. Okay, so Hunter XK5 wants to do a dub bomb to try on customer support. I bought a copy of Defiance from GameStop, and they gave me an already used code, so I couldn't get game access. I emailed them, and I believe this is Tryon customer support that emailed, and a GM got back to me, and within a few days he had the issue fixed, and now I have game access. Very cool. An A-bomb to GameStop for giving me an already used code. So apparently Tryon can do some stuff right.
Hey, they're not that bad of a company. I think they just make some boneheaded mistakes sometimes.
They just laid off the entire Defiant staff in San Diego or whatever. But
well, at least they still have customer support, even though the game doesn't have developer support, but has customer support.
And again, that sort of just goes into like that seems to be a regular practice. Not saying that is a good practice.
No, it's true because Snell Games did that with the Age of Wushu team.
And so did EA. EA did that with BioWare when they finished Star Wars. It just is a normal practice. Not necessarily a great practice, but it is something that does happen quite a lot in development of larger MMOs. So why don't we go ahead then and move on? Jason, take this next guy who sounds like it kind of sounds like a Digimon.
I believe he's actually the good man.
The good man? Okay.
The good man.
Yeah.
It says, my A-bomb goes to Hi-Rez. I think they are trying to pay the people on social media to do their technical things so that they don't have to do it. Not cool, bro. The good man, you are completely off base here. They are not paying anybody.
They're just trying to shove it off on them.
Yeah, no, they're going to make you do the work without getting paid for it.
My favorite part about this whole high-res shifting things to Reddit is there was a Reddit a post trying to get the high-res people banned from Reddit. It ended up not being able to. They didn't succeed. But just the fact that people were avidly trying to get high-res banned, it was just great. I'm like, it just shows how big of a mess up this was. But they're still sticking to it. That's the worst part.
Social media, just not a place for discussion. And people really do feel... I mean, I was expecting to hear like a 180 on this from high-res, but they're committed. And
they're committed to the bailing.
I believe they're also leaving, or not, they're not leaving up the old forums either. So they everything's been shut down essentially. So you can't even use it for reference.
They'll save like $100 a month or $100 a year probably by not having to worry about.
Isn't it a little bit fishy to you that they've removed the forums? They couldn't just keep them up. There's most likely stuff on there they just did not want people to keep reading over time.
And I also hear that if anyone posts anything about the high-res patch and stuff on their Facebook page, they get insta-banned. They really are trying to keep people from saying bad things about them, but at the same time they do things that are going to get people to say bad things about them.
This is the internet. You can't quiet things on the internet. If you try to make something on the internet go away, it'll only get bigger. This is how things work, unfortunately. Alright, so why don't we go ahead and bounce on over to our question of the week. Last week it was, what was your opinion on EverQuest Next? We actually had some very good discussion points from this, starting with Air Splash, who of course, he's our most loyal viewer. He says, EQ Next seems to be one of, if not the biggest MMO game coming out in the future, even if it's a ways off. It's very impressive from what I've seen, and has been a very high potential. It has a very high potential, rather, to be one of the pillars of the MMO market. Depending on how they present the game, make it action combat, and keep content coming, it could possibly be something to behold. I do feel, however, it might be overshadowed by EQ Next Landmark. We all know how big Minecraft is, and from what I've read and seen, EQ Next Landmark is Minecraft on crack. I phrased that. I'm glad he's using it. We won't know until they are both released, however. I don't see Landmark overshadowing EQ Next, certainly, but I do see Landmark holding its ground in terms of like having an active player base for those who just want to focus primarily on crafting, buildings and making stuff, and don't want to have to deal with the whole combat side of things so much. That's assuming that there isn't combat in Landmark. We don't know yet.
Yeah, I still haven't quite figured out exactly what Landmark is going to be beyond the crafting and probably a little bit of destruction and so on. But
it's mostly just about going out in the world, finding the resources you need to build stuff, and then building it out of those resources. Much like Minecraft, but they haven't explained whether or not there's any sort of combat or you'll have to because someone brought up in one of the Q&As a very good point. Where it's like, well, what if I want to use leather to make like a leather bed or something leather, do I have to go kill something that I can make leather out of, or how do I get that leather? And they weren't ready to talk about how players were going to get certain types of resources.
You kill other players.
You kill other players.
You skin them.
Do you have to kill an accountant to get something, or
an accountant?
Oh, you guys don't remember episodes ago where the whole real life cash shop?
I'm
just so sad right now.
It's too meta, man. That is way too meta.
Yeah, you're right. I don't remember that far back.
That is way too meta. We go one episode back. We ask the question of the week from last week, and then we forget about it. Jason, why don't you go ahead and take the next one then?
Sure. This comes from Mega17. He says, for EQ Next, I'm looking forward to how wildlife will flee whenever an especially evil boss is triggered. I just think that trope would make the experience of finding bosses so much more immersive. Also, I really hope there will be quests to send people to help heal the world whenever a lot of destruction has occurred. Not only is it another angle to develop content for, I believe that if there aren't Heal the Land quests, a lot of areas will be permaflattened faster than they can regen. That's an interesting concept, too. I mean, they talked about, the world is going to, it has to build itself back a little bit, because otherwise, the whole world will be flattened within about 2 hours. But that would be interesting to have a path or a reason for you to not just destroy, but a path for you to create as well. Besides creating your actual buildings, talking about, filling in holes in the ground or something. You have to, say if maybe one faction is the tree hugger, elf, druid class, or druid faction or whatever, and they can do stuff to make the world, spring back to life.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty... I know they talked about having, druids that healed and stuff like that. Not the developers, but a lot of players were talking about that. I myself would think that I know sort of how I interpreted the healing. Some areas would heal faster than others. Some areas you couldn't destroy as much as others. So I certainly would think it would be cool. And they weren't ready to talk about water, although they did confirm water. So I think it would be really cool if there were certain areas that you could dig out. I know someone mentioned digging out, making moats and that kind of thing. And then having it permanently dug out. But then it would be awesome if there's areas of land where if players didn't tend to it, if they didn't take care of it, it would get demolished, and you do need to actually collect resources to build it back up. Otherwise, it's worthless, kind of thing, right?
It would be cool.
I think that would be pretty awesome. Now, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and take this last gentleman? I'm assuming it's a gentleman. I don't really know if that's male or female in the name. It could just be an orc.
Well, that still could be a male or female orc. How are orcs
exactly.
Asexual? Golgo28. I'm excited for EQ Next because SOE is trying to do something other than the standard copy and paste MMO. I like how they are making the game have that feel that the first EQ had, where when players log in for the first time, they will want to explore the game world. I think that's exactly right. This is a game where when I jump in, I'm not going to just want to go just kill people or quests. I want to go whack a tree down and just explore the mechanics and see all this world around me. It looks amazing, and it's interactive. You can blow stuff up. I mean, come on, that's awesome. And you can jump.
How many people do you think, when they first load in the game, are just going to run up to the nearest tree and just start hitting it?
Everybody.
Nobody's going to be doing, starter quests or anything like that. Everybody's just going to be gravitating towards trees
Or orcs are just gonna be standing around like, come on, don't you want to come kill us? No, I gotta hit a tree over here.
Then the orcs are going to migrate because they're not even getting. They're like,
they can't even chop down trees or whatever.
Exactly. They're like, oh, this is stupid. All right, well, great discussion there for EverQuest next. The question of this week, which was spoiled a little bit earlier by Kevin, but he said, or I said rather, what genre do you think will take over next year and why? So, assuming MOBAs aren't still the genre of choice for developers to create stuff with, what genre do you think will take its place? I'm going with either sandbox MMOs or RTSs.
For the record, I didn't do it intentionally, and I'm going to go with ARPGs.
ARPGs, all right.
And for the record, I'm going with turn-based, board game-ish strategy.
Turn-based board game strategy. All right, so we got ourselves a myriad of different genres to explore. We'll find out, I guess, in a little bit like 6-7 months, something like that. So I know. I guess we would find out probably like February, March, maybe. What's coming? What's sort of like our plan for the year? We'll see if we can make a prediction about then. All right, guys, that's been our episode 80 here. I hope you guys enjoyed it as usual. If you guys have any comments, concerns, questions, or just plain old-fashioned compliments, go ahead and give them to us down below in the comments, or you can give them to us personally on each of our respective social media sites. Just don't hate on us, guys. We have Twitters, but we're not part of Hi-Rez. We don't want to be associated with that. My Twitter, of course, is @Spunkify. Kevin, what is your Twitter?
No social media K. And people have been tweeting at me. I like it. I started talking back to them.
Awesome.
In a good way.
And then Jason?
I am @WinterInformal, and occasionally I stream at twitch.tv/JasonWinter.
Jason, when was the last time you actually streamed?
It was like last Saturday.
Okay, that's close enough. You're going to be like, I occasionally, as in 4 months ago.
Well, I don't do it as much as I used to because my computer's old and it really kills my frame rate to do stuff, so I'm a little more selective.
Well, keep us updated whenever you're able to get yourself up to speed. We'll do a little bit more streaming. Jason actually is he's starting to be a regular guest on the weekly podcast that I actually host weekly Bomb Live stream. I host every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which hopefully that is a good time for all of you. I'm looking for more people. Come on, guys. Come watch us. We play a lot of fun games. We recently played the free-to-play version of Mountain Blade. No, not Mountain Blade. It's
War
similar.
of Roses.
Yes, War of Roses. It's basically Mountain Blade, but a little bit different. You guys can check that out on MMOBomb's YouTube page. If you're watching that already, hey, you know what to do. Anyways, guys, I'll see you for the next episode here. Spunkify out. Later.